Hey guys, a lot of people ask me how I make my music and kind of Basshunter style songs, so I guess that's what I'll be showing you today. I'm currently in FL Studio at the moment, and I've got a few soft synths open that I use. Well, only two at the moment, but anyway, the first thing I usually do is I get the kind of basic melody, which I've got in. I've used Nexus for this one, which is this blue soft synth here. And one thing that I've done is I've taken the cutoff down, so it normally sounds like this, but I've taken the cutoff down, so it's a bit less kind of tinny. I'll draw that out, so I have two of them, so far it will just be pretty cheesy. I'll show you how I drew that out. I just open the piano roll, and those are the notes there. Next, I've moved the pattern down to pattern 2, and I've got just a kind of crash sort of sound, which sounds like this. So next pattern, there's no EQing or anything on that. Next pattern is Cymbal Crash, which sounds like this. Kind of builds up. So if I go into the piano roll and look at that, there's the volume down here, and I've basically taken low then built up in volume, and that's on every first beat. So on its own it sounds like this. Yep. The next thing, pattern 4, I've chosen to, pattern 3, this is EQ'd here. Open up the channel, it's EQ'd, I'll show you that in a second. Pattern 4 is just that kind of sound that I used in the first pattern, but it's only a short 4. So the next thing, I kind of want that to build up, that melody, so I've drawn out a automation, so there it is there. So it goes from low to high, and then it kind of dips back down again. I'll show that in a second. Basically that is a fast LP, and the way I make that is I click on here and I go to browse parameters, and I choose cutoff, right click, create automation clip, and then just draw it out. Pretty simple. The next thing I've done is I've EQ'd that actual sound, so that's the EQ that I've used here. Cut the bass and the lows, bring up the mids, and kind of drop the really, really trebly air highs. So it sounds like this. The next thing I do is something pretty important, which is the kick. Again, I've used Nexus for the kick, and there's lots of cool presets. That's the one I'm using at the moment. When you open it, it will have kind of reverb on it. You want to take that off, so you just click off on the reverb. Yeah, so the next thing I do is make a new channel for that, which is through here, which is basically some pretty hard EQing here. Cut the really low basses, bring up just your standard bass and your upper mids. People do this differently, but this is what sounds best for what I think sounds best for this kick. So that's what it sounds like. And then the next thing I do is I add some compression. I've put the gain right up on here, quite a small ratio, high threshold, short attack, and a bit more release than what it was in the original preset, and I've used a soft compression. So it's pretty sharp and snappy. So I want to draw them out along the main melody here. So far it sounds like. So the kick kind of comes through. The next thing I do is a hi-hat. So I've made a new channel for this, and I've put some EQing on it here. I've brought up the airs, the really high trebles, the upper mids, so it kind of shines through in the mix. Drawn those out. So far it sounds like this. Bring that up a bit more here. Cool. The next part is the bass. For this, again, I've used Nexus, but I've really messed around with a pitch bass. I've used Dance Volume 1 pitch bass 6, and then I've messed around with the reverb and the delay, and then I've taken off it was on PLY. I'm guessing that means a poly portamento, which kind of means it kind of bounces up to the next note. I've taken that off, and then I've gone into the arpeggiator. And originally it was a kind of straight, and then it kind of went down here, so it was like meow. So I've taken that off, and I made it one straight sound. So sounds like this. Taking the attack just a little bit down, so it kind of fades in, and each note it fades in, and then I'll show you what I've done. I've basically put it every second note. But since this is a Basshunter style song, what you really want to do is it's kind of on an offbeat and a thirds. I don't know how to explain it, but triplets basically. So what you need to do here is the actual note itself will originally be like that if you do it on the second beat. What you want to do is cut the end off 1 and then drag it along to the right a bit. So it's kind of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares, and then 3 squares are taken up with the actual bass note. So that sounds like it kind of jumpy. So if I throw that in, it sounds like this so far. I put some EQ on that, so I've brought up the low mids and dropped the bass where the kick is, and I've brought up the high mids where the kind of distortion is, and then I've taken I've compressed it yet again, brought the gain pretty similar to the kicks compression. The next thing I've done is claps, so I'll draw the claps out here. I've already done them. Oops. Yeah, so these claps here are just, I actually got them from a Basshunter pack of presets. It sounds like, where is it? Yeah, it sounds like this. Obviously that's been EQ'd. Yeah, there's a bit of EQ on there. So I've sucked out all the lows and just basically kept it the way it is, because it's most of these presets, preset WAV samples are pre-EQ'd. So I draw them out. Yep, so the next thing I do is I've added some kind of I guess it's a kind of where is it? Synth pad. It's like choirs basically. I've used the voice preset pack and Arms of Heaven. So I've added a stereo shaper onto that to kind of widen the sound. That's the stereo shaper there. So it kind of comes, it pans hard left and right, and then I've put some EQ on that, sucked out the bass, the low mids, and then brought up the mids and the kind of left the highs the way they were. So I draw those in. That kind of gives a bit of background noise. So all together, it sounds like this. Next thing I've done is I've made a kind of, I guess, a break. There's lots of stuff going on here. I've got the melody going through again. I've got the cymbal crashes. I've got next is the kick. I've got the bass and everything, and I've got a clap at the end, and I've got some toms as well. Basically, everything's EQ'd and compressed. I've got a snare as well. So basically, this is what that part sounds like. Yeah, so that's going to be the build up to the actual main melody, which I have drawn in. I've not finished it yet, but I'll show you what it sounds like so far. I think it's pattern. Yep. So that for this, I've used Z3TA plus. I've used the C bank, and the sound is called "Do You Feel It," which is kind of one I've edited myself. It's not the original preset, and it's not actually a preset built into this. I had to download it from somewhere else. It's based on the Sandstorm preset, but I've taken some of the cut-off down, a bit of the resolution down, and that's what it sounds like. Obviously it's not cut up like that. I've added a killer gate to it, which basically just kind of makes a kind of bounce in and out. I've just basically clicked on all the notes here, and you can have a look at the way I've set it out. And then obviously that will be EQ'd, so I'll do that EQ now. So bring up, I'm currently using Fruity Parametric EQ2. So you want to suck out all the lows pretty much. That sounds pretty good. So you want to draw that in next, and then you kind of want to take that whole section you just did, minus the melody, and then drag that along. So far the whole thing sounds like this. Obviously there's a bit more of the melody to do. The next part to do is to go into the piano roll here, where I've drawn out that kind of lead synth sound. Copy it, Control C, then I'm going to insert another synth sound. Now I've got a choice to make here. I'll try two different sounds. I'm going into the C bank of C3TA Plus and going to Commercial Trance, and then I'm going to open that up, copy and paste it in. Have a listen to that. Don't know if I like the sound of that. Maybe if I add the killer gate onto that. So to create a new track in the mixer, I bring out this and then press Control L, and that opens a new track here. So what I want to do first is EQ that, bring out the lows. We'll just leave it pretty simple for now, and then killer gate, and then I want to change it to the divisions to 3 because it's triplets. Add in every single note. That sounds better. Obviously I can try that with different synth sounds, so I could open up. Another one that I like to use is Vanguard, which is like that. It's got some pretty cool. So some pretty cool presets in there. Another one that I like to use is Silent, I think it's pronounced. It's based on, it kind of looks like an analog synth. Another option that I could use would be to turn on my microKORG, and then that's, as you can see at the back here, it's, maybe not, you could, yeah, basically I've put MIDI cables going in and out, and then basically all I need to do in here is open replace with a MIDI out, which looks like that, and then I can actually control the microKORG using FL Studio's MIDI. Also, I'm using a Novation Nocturne to control the parameters, so I can either draw them in like this to get them really sharp, or I can actually do it myself using this knob, which I've assigned to be the cutoff. So that's pretty much how I make Basshunter style songs on FL Studio. Yep. So see you guys later.